Yep, hi all. So it's September 2020. Here's the BSA D7. Yeah, the Bantam D7, I believe it is. 175, just in to me just to get it working. So what I'll do is I'll clean it up, just physically give it a wash down. You know, I'd like to have the bike sort of clean. Pump up the tyres. Hopefully they hold air. And then I'll look to remove the carburetor, the fuel tank, the aspect there. I'll then look at draining off the gearbox oil and replacing the gearbox oil. Have a look at the spark plug if that looks suspicious old, etc. Change that. Have a look at the HT lead here, which looks, obviously it's old. It looks old, but I'll have a look at that. Take it off, have a look on the cover, see if it's usable, or see if it needs a new HT lead as well. And then that all looks good. And then get the ideal scenario is to get the engine running, of course. Make sure it's all good. Make sure the wiring's nice. And then if it's running, then get a chain ordered. And I'll definitely have to get the clutch cable ordered. That's the registration, which we don't think is still with this particular bike. It hasn't been registered or sawned since around 1980. So it's missing the chain, missing the clutch cable. It's got the Y pack. This is all loose, so I need to take the cover off here, tighten all this up, have a look at the condition of the wiring inside. You know, got some new some sort of basically I'll tape that up. You know, make that look better. It's cool. I'm not going to be cleaning up and polishing all this chrome. That's not what my task is to do. My task is just to get the thing running. You know, so if you wanted to to drive it to the end of the street and back, you could. Things like, you know, this sort of stuff here. This just needs leg work. You know, elbow grease, for example. Just get out there. You know, Brillo pad, Scotch-Brite, that type of stuff. You know, and just get down there. Autosol, clean it up. You know, so just needs hours just of cleaning. That's all. But yeah, I'll get this. Hopefully, I'll be able to get this thing running. Should be able to. There we go. Thank you. Cheers. Yep, I also part 2 of the video. So we've got the D7. So I've done quite a bit of work on it yesterday and a bit of work on it today, and I'll be doing a load more later. And you can see now you've got a nice shiny carburetor on there. I kind of wanted to get, you know, all of the dirty, oily stuff out of the way first, because that's what sort of stinks. You know, keep my wife happy and all that sort of stuff. You know, getting all these out of the way. You know, dirty hands, everything else. So yep, mention carburetor is done. We've now got a list of items to order. Just off the top of my head, you know, there's about 10 items, but we need things like, you know, throttle cable, because that's super worn out. We need clutch cable. I've cut off the rubber grommets here, so rubber footrests. We need those. We only need 3 out of the 4, but if they come as a pair, let's just do both. You know. I've obviously taken off the kickstarter and the gear change here, and I've pulled the cover. I've drained out the oil, I should say, which is there, which is not too bad. But obviously I've got Castrol, the correct Castrol GGTX or something, but it's just the right stuff for this engine. And I'm going to clean this up in a second and say I've used the impact driver to carefully take these screws out to pull the cover back just enough so I could make sure that it all looked fine inside and clean, and mainly the front chain was in there, so I didn't realise there's 2 chains on this bike. So yeah, it looks like that's exactly original and normal inside, which is cool. I didn't want to take all this mechanism off to get the cover off fully, but all looks good, oily, sweet inside. And also drained out a bit more oil as well, which is always good. So in a minute I'm going to fill up the oil to the correct level, so that aspect is good. Depending how many tools you need, you know. Grease gun as well. Grease, things I've cleaned, I mean, I've only given it a token clean, but I've cleaned up this, removed the grease nipple for the speedometer, and greased that, pumped some grease in there. And obviously I'll keep the grease gun out and grease any other points on the bike that need doing. I've lubricated all this up because I'm worried, you know, that this part here might possibly snap when I try and take it off, and I probably very, very likely maybe need to take that off. I mean, I need to loosen it off, I should say, in order to adjust the brake. So you know what, I'll just go for it. I mean, you can probably get away with not removing it to put the chain on, because if the chain's got a split link, you know, I might be able to connect the chain on wherever it connects to, which obviously will be down here somewhere. So I have to look at that. But as you can see, I've removed this cover here. I've removed the cover here, which covers over the points. I've checked the points, and they're 0.3 millimeters. Sort of a nice 0.3 millimeters, which I believe is 0.15 inches according to my phone, which is the right spec. Cleaned the points as well, and I've greased where the little brush goes. I forget what it's called now. There's a little brush thing that goes there. That's obviously bone dry, so I've greased that. I mean, often on cars you put a bit of oil on that pad, but it does say grease in the manual, so I put a bit of grease on it there. Also greased this nipple here as well, and I've loosened off this clutch adjustment device, and adjusted the screw here to be per the manual, and it wasn't to be far out from the manual anyway. So you just screw it in there until it touches, and then you reverse it back half a turn and then tighten the locking nut. So that's cool. HT lead comes round here and solders onto here, and the HT lead looks in good condition. So I think we'll go for that. You know, we'll kick it over once we get the new plug in and the battery and etc. See if we've got spark, and then if we have, you know, we can probably assume the HT lead is good. But it looks in good condition, you know. So I think we'll leave that for the moment. So yeah, I need to wonder how I'm going to get this chain on. Actually, this is a good point. I don't know if I need to remove some of these covers here. Hopefully I haven't got to remove all of this, hopefully, to get the chain on. We'll have to see. Cool. That's the good one there, which I'll leave on for the moment until to confirm if we buy a pair. Obviously I'll slice it off and put a new one on. That's the old battery, which is mega old, so you know what, we're just gonna get a new one, not to mess about of this one. The new ones are like sealed as well, and then gel and all this sort of stuff, so they're much better. This all looks a little bit crappy. Yeah, a little bit crappy. So what is once this bit here is done, I'll then take the seat off, and then I'll just basically give this a really good clean up all the wiring. Obviously put the new battery in, you know, find out where, say, this wire here goes. I've got the manual, you know, it's the sort of thing you might solder on there, but obviously I'll check that in the wiring diagram. And then we can go from there. And there we are. That just came off nicely. The old white paint did, with a bit of acetone, and also we can use more acetone on there to get it better. But you can see obviously it's got being worn out on here from riding it, but this looks much better than having it. It's just painted white. I've washed out the fuel tank as well, and they say the fuel tap is the only thing that I would say is probably completely knackered. Seized, absolutely seized solid. So yeah, I'm looking into that as well, be it with Bournemouth Bantams. Cool. Cheers. Yep, also next part of the video. So yeah, it's BSA Bantam D7 1959. So a bit more looking at the wiring and stuff today. So got a nice little battery cut-off switch here. Show you obviously on and off, which is cool. And this means that the owner can then disconnect the positive on here. Therefore, when it's parked up in his garage, you know, extending the life of the battery, etc. So that's kind of like the main aim. I don't think it will help in terms of cutting off the engine, because also on these, when I've looked at research on the internet and what the forums have suggested, is that basically you need to like strangle the carburetor, and for when you want the engine to stop. So they have the idle very low, and you're meant to keep the idle ticking over, with your generally with your control on here, and then you can then run the carburetor dry, or you can, if you had the original filter, you can strangle it, and obviously stops any airflow coming in, and that then cuts out the engine, or you can stall it. So there's a combination of different things. I'm not sure what the official BSA comment is, but that's what the internet have said. So yeah, so a few things. First thing is this thing here. So this is a perfect fit, but I brought this before I managed to locate a genuine one. So we've now gone for the genuine one. This one happens to be the absolute perfect fit, because of course I found the genuine one, and then naturally this one here arrived the next day. But yeah, that's quite nice. And they say that blue stuff's just covering over the chrome, so I'll leave that and I'll use it on another project. Today's little look here, so there's a battery on-off switch. Just put a little sticker on here. So then, a very important note, because this rectifier here is blown, because so the previous owner, fair play, it's at some point in the 80s, connected the battery the wrong way round. So the translucent wire, which is this colour, this one here, was attached to the negative, and the brown to the positive, which of course not often the brown is positive, but on this bike here it's a positive earth, so the translucents all go around to this earth point here and they go on to the positive. So it's the first time I've ever seen this type of bike. I've always dealt with classic cars and stuff which are the other way around, which I consider more normal. But yeah, so I've done this, put the switch in, done a wire here. I'm probably going to extend this wire, but the reason I use this wire here is because I'm still waiting for some more connectors through, so I had to use the round connector that I'd used on the translucent and basically just put it into place. So yeah, I'll probably do something a bit longer, so I can also go around a little bit in each one, and that will also, it gives the owner a bit more leeway, not to damage anything when he removes the battery if he does. Got a little spacer in here. You don't necessarily need to have a spacer, you can just clamp it down, but I'd imagine they might put some foam or something possibly underneath there, because I don't want it getting caught, on the negative wire here and sort of squashing it, that's all. But that's completely fine. I've moved the wiring loom around the back here. The wiring loom originally was sort of down here, so I've moved it around the back. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to extend these wires here, which ultimately go around to the rectifier. So once I get the new rectifier from BSA Bantams, I'll find somewhere to put it, hopefully there, because it's a different type of, it's a more modern thing, 4 pins on, and then I can then probably cut these off, solder new lengths of wire on, similar colours of course, I'll aim for similar colours around the back here, and then I can then feed it through these cable ties I've got ready in place, and that'll be absolutely spot on. So then the owner can just to remove the battery, you can just take the seat off ideally, undo these clamps, half an inch, and then you're able then to obviously move this one here, pull the battery out, and then you can get to the back connector, which is just another one of those, take it out, job done. So that's cool. And this wiring here, so some of these wires here, they go to the horn, which is missing, so we'll find a horn. I don't know if the horn mounts here, or if that might be actually the mount for the cover, but yeah, if the horn mounts somewhere on this, so we've got a horn on order. Loads of other bits on order, such as the correct chain, which I need to shorten to the right length depending on what sprockets on here and on there, so I'll work out all that. Got new footrest rubbers, on the other side you've got the gear shifter rubber, etc. Up here we've got coming the new sort of, I believe it's called a ferrule that goes in there like a spacer, new clutch cable, which goes down to the bottom, which connects underneath here somewhere. So we've got the cover off, so I had to drop down the exhaust a bit in order to pull this cover off here. Basically this was leaking around here, and it's just full of half an old seal and a ton of red hematite, so I've cleaned it off as you can see. Ordered the correct seal from BSA Bantams, you said to put it on with a little bit of grease, and that's it, just tighten it on, no need to do anything else. So that's good, so that can go on. I can then refill it back up to the correct level on the sort of dipstick, and once I confirm it's not leaking, just put the exhaust back up. Got a new spark plug coming, fuel tank, bits and pieces, so I can connect that up because that's all sort of seized and a bit knackered. And yeah, and then obviously, of course, like I mentioned earlier, the correct air filter with a strangler built in. I rebuilt the carburetor, so I'm happy with that. I also injected some fuel down here just to sort of let it sit in there, so hopefully it will start But yeah, this all looks good. And then we can go from there and see if the thing actually works. Okay, cheers. Yeah, well, so it's the next part of the BSA Bantam D7. So it's the clutch cable install, which is here. So what I did with this one is, again, followed the advice off the internet, thank you, is loosened off the 14mm, or whatever it is in old-fashioned inch term, 14mm here, loosened off the adjusting screw here, and then tightened up the nut, and then you're able to put your spanner on there and then turn it clockwise, and then you move the lever underneath here. Then you can move it a little bit underneath here. You can then slot the cable in, which is just there, it's out of focus. Then put it into here. Then the advice says is you can then continue to put pressure on turning this. This obviously moves the lever out, slackens the cable, and then you can get it on this end. I found that didn't work because I having to use a lot of pressure, and I felt like it was going to be too much pressure. So all it is really simple is you just remove off this screw here. Then you can obviously take the lever off. You can slot the ferrule and the cable in this end, and then simply you just hinge the lever back on, boom, and it screws in easy. And that's all you need to do. So then of course I loosened this off here, tightened this in until it touched per the manual, and then loosened it off half a turn, which is the clutch cable or lever adjustment level. Hold it in place, tighten up the 14mm thereabouts. Job done. And I'm going to spray it with some grease now. I mean, I have actually lubricated, of course, the nipple here, but I'm going to spray some grease in here because I cleaned out. Also, I'll clean it, but I cleaned out and stuff the old grease that was there. So I'll put some additional grease on there. Chain, got the chain here. So apparently that's the correct pitch from BSA Bantam, so that's the spot on one. It's got the sort of shipping grease on it. So what I did is loosened off the wheel and all the adjustment parts, etc. Threaded the chain round, put the link in, and what I'll do now is I'll now push the wheel backwards in order to get the right amount of slack in it. Then I can put the chain guard back on, and then sweet, that is done. Didn't need to remove any links from this because obviously it's got the correct factory sprocket amounts, so it's perfect. So yeah, looking really good. And then next I've also done the gapped up the new short reach spark plug. I had a long reach one in there which was in error, but I don't think it's damaged the piston, because when I checked, the piston doesn't come up to the top on a car. The piston might possibly hit the spark plug, but there's quite a big gap from how I can feel of a rubber tube. So I think the old spark plug probably has done no damage to the piston, but obviously you can't really tell until you run it, but I think it will be fine. So if any reason there's a hole in the piston, it's because there's a long reach spark plug in there. So that's good. And then I connect that up once. I haven't put that on yet because I want to turn it over a few times once the oil's in, the petrol's in, before then and check the spark before I connect this up. And then we've got the new, the used but new to us fuel tap here, which I have got the original gasket. A new gasket on there, but I've also got a bit of blue hematite on there as well, blue gasket sealing, because I want it to protect it from leaks. This plunger is brand new, along with a brand new cork and rod inside. So this spot here is brand new, this spot here is used. I'm going to send back the old one to BSA Bantams as an exchange. I then need to work out what I'm going to do with this. Obviously I can replace it, but if you cut it off here, it looks like the barb on here is much bigger than the barb on here. So therefore you're going to have to go from a large diameter tube to a small diameter tube. So I don't want to cut it off yet until I find out what I need to do. I might need a fuel filter in the middle, or that has some sort of the smaller end connection on this end, and a large end on this end, and a large bit of fuel pipe and a small bit of fuel pipe. I'm not sure yet. I need to look into that. But as I said, I don't want to cut anything off until it's something super easy, because clearly this is too old to reuse, and that won't go on there unless you crank it up, so it's just not suitable. So I need to do it properly, and say it's just too old. Also got the new strangler on there, which is cool, and new rectifier in place, new horn in place. Probably leave it there. I'll see once all the wiring's in. I've sort of sussed out what I believe is the correct way to wire up this new rectifier, so I'm just double checking that, and then I can extend these wires round over the top and round the back into here, so the battery can come out easy, and it's much better. Cool, cheers.